Hi everyone, welcome back to This Book Belongs to Pam. I debated getting ready for this video since this is a sit down wrap up video, but my skin has just been breaking out. That's why I decided to let my skin breathe and just not put on makeup. It definitely makes me feel a little less confident, but I know that doesn't really matter. What matters are the books that I read in January. This is gonna be the first wrap up of the year, which I'm super excited to do because I've always been pretty inconsistent when it comes to my upload. So I've never really had like a full year of wrap ups. But that is my number one goal for BookTube this year, is to just have wrap-ups for every single month of reading. I feel like it's just fun to look back at, my thoughts on a book. I read a total of 5 books for January. It's not a lot. I mean, I usually read a little bit more than this, but I was working on this monster of a video. It's the previous video that I uploaded, which was my 2022 Bookoffs. Basically, kind of like my best books of 2022. I'm gonna link it below. I'm gonna link it in the cards. I'm gonna link it everywhere because I worked really hard for that video, and so if you want to know my best book of 2022, I try to make it a little bit different than just a normal wrap up. It's a long one. So, grab maybe some coffee and watch it, or maybe put it on the background. Anyway, the books that I read in January. I read 5 books. The first book that I read is The Mistake by L. Kennedy. This is the second book in the Off-Campus series. In The Mistake, we are following Logan, another member of the hockey team. He is hung up on this one girl that I guess he can't have because that girl is the girlfriend of someone close to him. He's trying to drown out the pining that he has for this girl. So he just goes through and finds distractions. And one of those distractions happened to be Grace Ivers. So Grace is this sort of not like her other girl. She watches a lot of action. She doesn't like to party kind of girl. Or at least that's what people think about her a lot. So they go through this flirtation. And eventually something happens that forces them to sort of rethink whatever this relationship that they have. So that's a very quick gist of this book. I rated this book 3 stars. I felt like it was definitely weaker than the deal in terms of character development as well as the plot itself. But I did have fun being back in the off-campus world, if you will. Logan, in my opinion, is a weak character, and by honestly a third of the way into the book, I was sick and tired of his whining, of his sad boy personality, because he was just whining. He was just sad the entire time. He kept pining for this girl, and that was all we got from him. I don't mind pining. I actually like the pining part of this book, but I felt like there was no growth from there in terms of his personality, his thought processes, everything. My biggest gripe with this book is that whatever development or growth that the characters had happened off page. We didn't get to read about it. We were just told that boom, time skip, they've changed. They changed for the better. They're stronger people now, or they're much more secure, or whatever. But it happens off page where you're not quite invested in their progress and their relationship. One thing that I would note here is that there's a scene here that gave me major A Walk to Remember cafeteria scene vibes, and that's probably the best part of the book. Yeah, we also glimpsed a little bit the couple from The Deal, so that was also kind of cute. But yeah, other than that, nothing really to write home about. I did the compile rating system, and this got 3 stars, and I'm happy with that rating. So yeah, 3 stars for The Mistake by L. Kennedy. The next book that I read is Sign Here by Claudia Locks. I read this on my Kindle, and this was a book that I've been wanting to read for a while, ever since I read about it somewhere, I think on Bookstagram, and then one of the people said that it was like hell but make it corporate, and that was the line that got me reading this book. And honestly, I really enjoyed this book. So in Sign Here, we are following essentially 2 stories. So one is kind of this fantasy, very fantastical setting of hell, where bad people go when they pass away. And it's kind of set up like a corporation where you have different levels, different floors, and each floor has their own status symbol. And when you get a certain level, you can become this specific person, kind of like a salesperson where you're trying to get humans to sign contracts and deals to sell their souls to hell. So when they pass away, they go straight to hell. Something like that. It's a whole corporate setting in there. They're like talking about different methods of convincing humans to sell their souls, and there's like bonuses if you get multiple people in the same family, something like that. It's very weird but also quite interesting. On the other hand, we are following this family in the human world, and they are struggling a little bit because of things that happened in the past. There were a couple of deaths that happened to people close to them, and it definitely marred their family relationship and dynamics. This whole family subplot is kind of like a mystery family drama vibe, and I'm really liking that. The reason that we have these two sort of plots going on is that the main character from hell is actually trying to get a deal with, I guess, the one of the characters in the family. So that's how they're connected. I was quite impressed with the level of lore and world building that the author has accomplished in a standalone novel. I believe this is around 400 pages. I felt fully immersed in the concept of hell in this book. I was very intrigued by both the hell plot and the, I guess, family drama plot, and that just kept my interest throughout the entire book. The characters were quite interesting for me too. Everyone is basically morally gray in this book. There's no clear good person, hero, heroine, if you will. We're just following all of them, and they're all sketchy. They all have I guess, secrets up their sleeves. I understood all of their motivations, and I think that's because it's well written in a way. The ending wasn't really what I thought it would be. I'm not mad about it. I'm not sure I like it either, but it's such a small part of the book for me, in my opinion. I appreciated everything in the world and lore building, and that made me really enjoy this book. I gave this 4 stars, which is that is Sign Here by Claudia Lux. The next book that I read is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Now, this is a very well-beloved book in the book community. This is kind of like the poster child of the cozy fantasy genre, and I was super curious about this book, and I finally managed to get my hands on it via my Kindle, so thank you to the library. It's definitely true to the genre. It's a cozy fantasy. So it's set in this fantasy world. We are following Viv, I guess you could call her a retired orc. Is she an orc? Is that what she is? I don't remember. Orc barbarian. So the thing with this book is that it's set in a fantasy world. So there are a lot of high fantasy characters. So orcs, and there's succubus and ratkins, all of these terms of characters that I personally do not know because I haven't read a lot of high fantasy. So I was really confused for a bit, but it didn't really deter from the enjoyment of reading it. It's more of just you just have to let it go. With that said, it's like I said, it's definitely true to its genre. It's super cozy, and it's not there's not a big climax or a big sort of plot twist or whatever that's gonna happen. It's just very atmospheric. It's very all about the ambience. We have Viv, like I said, a retired orc barbarian, and she stumbled upon this thing called coffee, and she just wanted to retire by creating a cafe and offering coffee into this other city, town, or whatever, because coffee is not a common thing in this world. So she just wants to introduce coffee because she really enjoyed the ambience of just sitting at a coffee shop and just hearing all of the chatter of the people, the smell, the aroma of the coffee. I mean, 100% Viv, we have the exact same retirement plan. I also want to have a coffee shop with the added bonus of books, but that is definitely a dream of mine, and props to you for making it happen. I guess, it might have been too cozy for me. It felt quite boring. I'm so scared to say that. I know that a lot of people love this book, but it did feel kind of boring for me for some parts of the book. I really love the ambience of it, but I felt at some point it felt super dragging and repetitive when they kept trying to add new things to the menu, and then the exact same thing would happen where people would be hesitant and then people would eventually love it. So yeah, I think it's good for the vibes, but my recommendation is to read this in one sitting, or maybe like listen to it in one sitting with like a cup of coffee or like a beverage of choice while lounging at your like reading nook with some ambient like fireplace or rain sounds playing in the background, and just read it in one sitting, because I feel like my mistake was prolonging the reading experience for this book, which made me expect some kind of exciting thing to happen when it's not that kind of book. I think I read it over like a week and a half, which was way too long. I kept waiting for something big to happen because, I've been reading it for so long. But it's not that kind of book. So that's my fault, I think. I do think this is a book that some people would really enjoy, and some people who want more action, more plot, I guess, would definitely be bored with, and that's okay. That is the nature of books. It's subjective. Everyone has their own taste. So I gave this book 3.5 stars because I did enjoy the ambience while I was reading it. Like I said, I recommend reading it in one sitting and not doing what I did. So yeah, that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. The next book that I read is actually for this readathon. I read it for Magical Readathon, or Aurelium. It's part of the Year and aeldia adventure. That's so difficult to say. But I read The Cruel Prince because in this Year and aeldia adventure, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure thing, and I decided to turn left and start a new series. So this is Cruel Prince, which is the first book in the Folk of the Air series. I am so late to the game, knew nothing about it except that it was set in this Fae world. And honestly, this book felt like a crash course in the Fae lore, world, culture for me, since I don't really read much in that department. The only other book that I've read that had Fae in it is Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, and that was a standalone, so it didn't really go too deep into like the world building and the lore building. So there's a lot of that in here, and I enjoy that because this is my first time reading it. It certainly has that dark fairy tale vibe, and I think that lent itself well to the story of this first book. So what is this book all about before I get too carried away? So in this book, we are following essentially our main character, Jude. She is a human, but something happened when she was younger and she is whisked away into the world of fairy. And she has to live in the high court of fairy because the person that whisked her away is this high-ranking general in this fairy world. She's basically just treated like any other upper class fairies are treated, and that just doesn't sit well with the fairies of this world, because fairies obviously think that they're superior to humans, so they don't like that another human is being treated the same way as them, so they make life a living hell for our main character Jude and her sister Taryn as well. We're just following her as she tries to subvert all of their expectations and prove her worth and prove that she's not beneath the fairies, I think. So yeah, that's A Cruel Prince, and at first I was honestly worried that I wouldn't enjoy the single POV because I read the Grisha trilogy, like Shadow and Bone and whatnot, and I did not like the single POV in that, but I was actually interested. I actually liked being privy to Jude's thoughts because I felt like her thought processing and her reflections were quite interesting. I think she's a very interesting character and quite different from the other young adult fantasy characters that I've read before, who usually have this chosen one tendencies. I appreciated how it felt like she really worked hard and suffered hard for whatever boon or whatever advantage that she eventually earned throughout the story. Now, writing wise, for like a good 3/4 of the book, it felt like Holly Black's writing lacked urgency. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it read super slow for me. Not in a bad way slow, but it felt like things were just happening to the characters, things were happening to the world, but I didn't feel that there were high stakes. I was being told that there were high stakes. I gleaned that much from the thoughts of Jude and from the conversations that she had, but it didn't feel like there were high stakes in the book. The last 1/4 of the book, however, was so much better in terms of the writing matching the intensity of what was actually happening on page. I did quite enjoy that last bit. So I know that there's a lot of, I guess, conflicting feelings about the whole enemies to lovers situation, kind of like bullying situation in here. I am of the opinion that given how the Fae world was introduced in this book, like how Fae are actually very cruel creatures, Fae are actually like tricksters, I felt like it was within the personalities and the characters in the book to do what they did. It felt very like it matched what they did matched like the I guess the tendencies of their species. Of course I felt sympathy. I was really worried for our main character, but I thought that was part of the whole story. Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking so far. I don't know as the story progresses in the upcoming books if I'm still gonna be having the same thoughts, but that's my opinion as of now. Overall, I did enjoy this book a lot more than I thought I would. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm excited to dive into the other book. I'm actually going to be reading a second book this February as well, and also for the year in aeldia adventure readathon, because the prompt is read a book with water on the cover, and as luck would have it, the Wicked King has water in the cover, so that's fun. So yeah, that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. The final book that I read for January is actually a manga. I read the 4th volume of Spy X Family, so this is the volume where there's another addition to this unlikely family, so we get a dog! Honestly, this is just a very feel-good manga for me. I'm not trying to read too deeply into it. I did enjoy all of the dogs in this volume, so I gave this one 3.5 stars. So that's just there's nothing much to say to it. It's a 4th volume and we're just following the same family with the same shenanigans. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that is how I ended January. So I am very happy with all of the books that I read this month. I felt like I read a lot of different types of books, and that makes me happy. So in February, I'm gonna be reading a lot more romances because that's how it works. I don't think I'm gonna be doing like monthly TBR videos anymore. So I'm just gonna talk about the books that I might read next month in this video. So my sort of I guess TBR for next month, like I said, I'm definitely gonna be reading The Wicked King, so that's one. I also want to read let's see, I also want to read Legendary, which is the next book in the Caraval series, but I don't think I'm gonna get to it because I have a lot of books that I want to read in February for like other I guess secret videos if you will. I am still reading The Secret History. It's taking me a while, but it's fine. I read a couple of pages, like I think 50 pages last night, and I still like it, but it's one of those books that's gonna take me time to finish. And then I still have this book that I haven't touched at all. I wanna at least make a dent in it for February. That's gonna be my goal. So you guys have to hold me to it, okay? And then another one that I might read if I have the time is Sorcerer of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is the I guess book for Carrie Can Read's book club, and we're gonna have the live show on February 7th. So I want to read this before then, but this is a reread for me, so it's probably gonna go faster, and I don't need to finish the book before the live show because I have read the book. So yeah, I just want to reread it and refresh my memory, especially since this is the first time that I'm gonna be reading it physically, so that's gonna be fun. So yeah, those are all of my TBR that I can share with you because I am working on a couple of videos that are going to be kind of like a secret, if you will. I have a lot more books that I need to read for that. Oh, another book that I'm going to be reading, The Score, the 3rd book, the book after The Mistake. So I'm going to be reading this as well because this is part of Jamie's Library's series read along. So yeah, those are all the books that I plan on reading. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Maybe you found a couple of books that you might want to read, or if you're just curious about a specific book and you're just on the fence, I hope that this video helped you decide if you want to read them or not. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!